Welcome to my library, and thank you so much for joining me. Today I'm going to be giving you a list of 5 ongoing Royal Road stories that I either absolutely love because they're completed or still reading and love because they're ongoing. For those who are fans of Royal Road, who have their own stories that they love, let me know in the comments if any of these are stories that you also enjoy. I'd love to chat about it with you. I am a big fan of off-the-wall stories, things that haven't been necessarily done before, as well as the tried and true. I'm a huge fan of tried and true stuff, so for sure, let me know what you think. So, book 1, Tori Transmigrated. I know I'm not the only one who loves this one. The author is Isla Ari, and man, can that author write? Jeez, criminy. I just, huge fan of this author. And for those who haven't read it, basically a woman is off in another country for work and is going to meet up with her friends. So she takes the train derails, she dies, and wakes up in a game she doesn't even really know, had only looked up because of somebody she met on the train, and she ends up being reborn as the villainess of a Otomi game. And I can only imagine what that must be like. One of the beautiful things about this is that the author is taking a pretty common storyline, and what the author does with that storyline is just wow. You're taking the common and making it very uncommon. It is beautifully done. The politics, the relationships, the situations, and how they're handled, and the twists that you don't see coming, and there are quite a few, definitely worth reading. And I really, really, really hope that the author continues writing, because I'm hooked. Okay, so just to let you know, these are not in any particular order, but item number 2 on my list is Ghost in the City, Cyberpunk Gamer SI by Cirrus. I wasn't sure about this when I first started. I gotta admit, I am a huge Cyberpunk fan, as in 2077, the game. This takes place in that game, and while it has a kind of fanfic vibe just because of that, what the author does with this story is awesome. It took me a little while to get into it. I think that the author is kind of new to writing, which, to be honest, that's one of the things I love about Royal Road, is the fact that this is a great place for authors to get real feedback from real readers and up their writing game while they're figuring out how to master that particular art, which is hard. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have tried writing, but it is really, really hard. You wouldn't think from the outside that it would be until you sit down and try to get that story out of your brain and into the world, and then the courage it takes to put it out there in front of people. Kudos to anyone who does that, whether they publish through a publisher or not. I can only imagine, terrifying. So I was a bit leery because, like I said, I absolutely love the game, and it was really interesting because it takes you out of the general game and makes it into more of a, this is what it would be like to live in this world, with a few OP aspects, but still. OP meaning overpowered aspects, but still, it's just really, really, really cool. So take my advice and have a look. Whenever I see this author has a new post in this story, I immediately lose my mind with joy, because it's just a fun read. Every chapter is a fun read to me. I have to admit, I should probably have made this known before. All of these stories have at least violence in them. So if violence potentially triggers you, just a heads up for sensitive readers, it's in there. In pretty much every one of these in one aspect or another. Some less so than others. So, number 3 is Augmented Aspects by Lycanthropy. And Lycanthropy is an author who is writing a lot of stories at the same time, which I find extremely impressive, and writes them pretty well. It has a different writing style than most I've seen, kind of a comic book in some ways, I feel. And when you read it, you may get what I mean by that. But I really like the way the author gives me a bunch of different story ideas in different ways. They all have similarities. So there's a very similar tone to every one of this author's stories, but they're all different enough to make them unique reads in and of themselves. This particular story is about a world where when you retire, you can go into a kind of video game, like your consciousness is pulled into it and it's run by an AI. And, basically whatever you did before you retired will either help or hurt you when you get into that game. And it's generations of people who have gone into this. And it's pretty clear later on how there's more going on than is immediately apparent, but the story is one of those that I am always really excited to see what comes next. The character's fun to follow, and how she's aiming to herself be nonviolent in a very violent world, I think is a really interesting take. And how, through that, she gets the opportunity to learn magic in a fundamental sense. And her deficits become assets as well. It's just a really cool read and one I very much recommend. All right, this one's fun. When Immortal Ascension fails, time travel to try again by Dragon of Rochester. Oh man. This one isn't as updated as often, I got to admit, but the humor that laces this entire thing is hilarious, and it's kind of what it says on the tin. So you have somebody who, again, died in their own world, got shucked into a book, but it's one of those Zanzia cultivation deals, and then, she lives for a very long time, raising through the ranks, and ends up dying. Time travels back to before she starts her cultivation journey, and this time around does it slightly differently, with all of the knowledge that she already had, and with new challenges to overcome. And man, it is a wild ride. Every single chapter is a wild ride, and you have some fun stuff like the Tao of Paperwork and rock music. I mean, there's just, you can't get much better than that. So really would recommend that one as well. And my 5th item today is one that it calls to me for the political side of things. And for those who are not a huge fan of fantasy politics, I get it. But this is really well done. It's Memoirs of Your Local Small-Time Memoirs of Your Local Small-Time Villainess by Flame Runner. Runner? One N. So this one, you have somebody who ended up being reborn into the villainess of a game that this particular player/now character knew very well. Except the world isn't quite how she remembers it. And she is trying to not die, usually a good plan, by trying to figure all of this stuff out. So that's all I've got for you today. Thank you very much for joining me. let me know if you guys enjoy this and if you want me to keep going. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. May your day be epic and may awesomeness follow you like a sad puppy needing hugs. See you next time. Bye all.